Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
What is happening, Rush Nation? We are back. We are back with another Fantasy League Explainer. And this time, we're doing the JTT Cup. It is a Friday. Happy Friday. This is a pre-record, so any questions in the chat I won't see. Make sure you send them to me on social or write them in the comments below, and I'll pick them up if you're watching this on the YouTube. First of all, thank you very much for everyone this week for watching the shows, liking. Please hit the subscribe button. It does mean a lot to us. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That would mean the world to us. So please do hit that subscribe button. That will really help us out a long way. So we've done the Orkney Charity Bowl. We have done the Scottish Bowl. Today is the turn of JTT Cup, run by my good friend Matt Cullen, who have raised over £50,000 for charity. Amazing work, Matt. Phenomenal work over 5 years. Great tournament. When it comes to the scoring, there is points per first down, there is some bonuses in there for 50-yard touchdowns, which don't feel move the needle. There is some tight end premium in there as well. So it is an interesting, it is definitely an interesting league in terms of scoring. There is minus points set up for interceptions and pick sixes, so one to watch out for your quarterbacks there. Now, there are some extra bonuses I haven't put in here, which is 200-yard rushing games, 200-yard receiving games, 400-yard passing games. And there is a reason for that. In 2024, there was just 2 200-yard rushing games in the entire season. There were 2 200-yard receiving games in the entire season, and there were 7 300-yard passing games. So those bonuses really don't move the needle. It is a little element of luck to project those. So I've left those out of these projections because all in all, we're talking about a very limited handful of points. The most anyone's getting is 4 for the passing and 2 for the receiving or the rushing. So it's not moving the needle too much, as you're going to kind of see here in this scoring. This is based off of my projections. You can get access to these projections by buying the Fantasy Football Playbook off of Amazon. Link is below, as well as also subscribe to our Patreon, 5yardrush.com/ or patreon.com/5yardrush. Let's get that one right. Let's get into the scoring. Let's look and analyze it. As you can see here, total point scoring. The quarterbacks are dominating. It is just Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson that are breaking those top sixes. And that is with those receiving first down bonuses, giving them a bit of a push here. Then you got a couple of running backs. I will caveat that I have ranked Christian McCaffrey quite aggressively. He's my RB2 across the season. So if you don't agree with that kind of logic, then you need to sort of in your head sort of score him down from here. Tight ends, you see Brock Bowers makes an appearance, but really the tight ends aren't cutting the top 30, 40 in scoring. George Kittle is next at number 39. So really you're looking at this is quarterbacks are heavily premiumed here, despite the minus charges on interceptions and pick sixes. So there is that need of a super flex to get those 2 quarterbacks and do that in this league. Well, I think it's a 1 quarterback league, actually. No, it is a sort of flex. I'm starting to confuse myself there. So you want to get those quarterbacks early and often in the rounds, but then you do want to try and get one of these premium players up and early to anchor that. So QB, then a wide receiver or running back, followed by maybe another QB. Could be quite an ideal start. If you want to wait a little bit on QB, the scoring does sort of flatten out a bit. That kind of makes sense too. If we go into the per positional filters, and again, you'll need to kind of make your own copies of this sort of public scoring sheet in order to make the most of this sheet. I don't know why. Let me just change over to the right one. It had me on the viewing on the wrong profile because I have multiple profiles. So let's get the right one up. Horrible. Here we go. So you can just make a copy and then those filters will work for you in here. And the link to that is also just below. So make sure you do check these out and you can go ahead and do your own playing of these. So I'll just filter out by position just to give you a bit of a strategy view. These are the course backs. You can see the sort of tiers here. Those 4 elite players. Then you've got kind of Baker in a tier of his own, Joe Burrow in a tier of his own, Kyler Murray, then CJ Stroud, and then it kind of flattens out. These aren't set as sequential. That would be good if it was. Jalen Hurts benefits from the rushing points, which is why he gets a dip up over Lamar Jackson. So yeah, you've got these 4 here. Then this little tier here of 2. And then this is where the scoring at QB starts to flatten off. Trevor Lawrence is like the next line of demarcation here. Anywhere in here is fine. And then it sort of dinks into the 240s, 230s. And then you need to get your third QB before Bryce Young runs out. And then it starts to really dip with these 4. And they're not all guaranteed to start every game this season. So that's kind of where we are with the QB scoring. You got to make sure you get in there. Try and get one of these elite 4, worst case 6, then try and come up and get one of these. And if you can try and get a third in this range, you should be in good stead in the JTT Cup. Looking at the running back position, let's change the filter. Again, you can see here, again, it's not set. There we go. You can see here the scoring is set up in such a way that you've got a tier of 1 and sort of a little mini tier here, and then it starts to break. Bijan's in a skew of his own, and then you got this little gap here of these 5 and 6, and then this doesn't really plateau until you get around about here, the 240, 237 mark, but then you're still getting these little gaps, so it's quite easy to see where the tier breaks are. Until you're getting around the 140 to 130, then it really does flatten out. Even then, it's still jumping in little parts as well. So you need to get your RB situation. There isn't as much plateau in this scoring because of those first downs. You need to be sure that you're getting a lot of these premium running backs quite early on. It's going to drive the value and the price of them up as a result, if anybody has done the homework on the scoring. As you see here with wide receiver, you've got 5 over 100. You've got, again, chasing his own tier. And you've got a little cluster here of Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then you've got Nakua Lamb. Then you've got this next tier of Brown, Neighbors, Evans. And again, but this does flatten out a lot more. So this is a much easier group to sort of weight at the position when it comes to tiers. So you can draw your lines across when you make your own copy of this. You just save and make a copy just here. You'll be able to do this and then just be able to start drawing lines of where these are. So it is pretty straightforward in terms of the positional construction because there are some real tier gaps and the first downs really drive that. But it seems that tight end is wide receiver is a lot deeper. So you can wait on wide receiver once you've got your elite 1 or 2 on board and then hit them late in the draft because there's a lot of good options there. Tight end is interesting. Bowers is kind of in a tier of his own, and McBride and Kittle kind of sit there in a tier, and then you've got this sort of tier in the 260s, 250s. Evan Ingram on his own. Then you got this little tier of Andrews and Warren. I have Warren aggressively ranked, FYI. You could even throw Ferguson in this, and then you go this sort of next tier, and then you got these tiers here. And then it does steady off once you get round to this sort of range. You start to see it being quite consistent. So again, if you need multiple tight ends, you're going to need to get them probably before the end of this sort of realm. This is kind of where you need to be getting your tight ends, and you need to get 2 in here, maybe even 3. So again, this is a position you're going to need to go and address early as opposed to having to just wait on it. Because you could be in real trouble. So if you think of your roster construction, you're going to need at least 2, if not 3 of those QBs. You're going to need tight end, at least 2, and you're going to need 2 to 4 of those running backs in that range that we've shown. So wide receiver is going to be one that's kind of going to be left late. That's where I feel the optimal strategy is because there's less of a sort of a tier drop or tier gap. So that's where I see there being some optimal strategy. When I'm thinking of the late rounds, my late rounds, I'll be structuring and targeting those wide receivers that have got significant upside, those spike weeks, the players like Marcus Valdes-Scantling, like the Westbrook-Akeen. The guys last year had those really big spike weeks. Rashad Bateman is a good one as well, who's consistently probably not going to make the big headlines, but he has got those splash weeks in him, and those are the kind of players you want to target late in your draft. It is a very deep draft; it goes on late. The kicker and defensive scoring is relatively flat. In JTT, it's very standard, so you're not going to struggle picking up your players in there. It's just very standard kicker and DST scoring. So I haven't put them in here because it's just like every other site you can just go and view. I would be prepared to wait quite late on those. You don't want to get onto the end of a run, but if you've read the Fantasy Football Playbook, you can kind of see what I mean by DST and kicker don't really make a big needle change for you. So don't overdraft them. Just pick values towards the end. Keep filling your team. And then you'll get to the point at the end of this draft, because it is so long that it will be very difficult to pick players. You just got to find guys on the sheet. This is where having access to this video, there's over 400 players in this sheet. You're not going to run out of players to draft here. So, there's 438 players in here that I've ranked, and that's before the kickers and the DSTs. So you're looking at over 500 players. So there is plenty here to be able to differentiate those late drafts. That's why I think the scoring sheet will come in handy. It will allow you to just get this out from under your feet and allow you to really align. That's going to do it for this show. Please do donate to the JTT Cup and the Joshua Charity Trust. Phenomenal charity. Matt has done some amazing work there. So please do join. He's going to do a lot of fun things across the season with some pick'ems and sort of fun leagues. I think he's going to do an EPL league if you like your soccer fantasy or regular football fantasy, depending on which part of the country or world you live in. But he's going to do lots of cool stuff. So please do follow at JTT Cup on X and socials, and please do sign up for future years. Add all the stuff that he's doing and give Matt a little bit of love as well. Great guy, does a lot for the community. So hopefully you have tuned in, you've signed up, and that's why you've tuned in. But also give our channel a big like and subscribe. I'm happy to take any questions on the scoring. If you want to drop me some on the X machine or in the comments below, I'm quite happy to do that. But until then, Rush Nation, or if you're not part of Rush Nation but would like to be, hit the subscribe button. I'll be back next week with some more content and more of these charity league explainers. But until then, as always, enjoy your weekend. Happy 4th of July to you guys in the US of A. Hope you have a phenomenal weekend. To everyone else, as always, keep rushing.